Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a DIY video. I'm actually going to be making a bubble tea plush. I want to make a little one, just like a little keychain. I've made a bigger bubble tea plush on my channel before as well as a keychain one, but the videos, in all honesty, they are so bad and I feel so embarrassed by them. So we're going to be remaking the bubble tea plush for today. So I've actually just printed out a couple of templates for like paper cups. I just went onto Google and I Googled paper cup templates and I printed them out in various different sizes. I decided this one here was going to be too big, so I just stopped the printing on that. But this one here is a 7 centimeter high one and this one here is a 6 centimeter, and I think the 6 one is going to be perfect for what I want for today. If you're not printing and you haven't got a paper cup, the template will look kind of like this shape. This is the shape we want to achieve on our felt. See, I am using felt for today's DIY. I'm just going to take my template, place it down on a piece of felt and draw around it very kind of roughly, and then I'll just cut that shape out. So I've just been and ironed this very slightly. This is a wool felt, so I'm able to do that without it melting, and this is how the final piece has come together. So when you meet it up, you just want to make sure that both of the ends kind of match, and then it'll make like a little cup shape. Do you see? Ah, so cute. Anyway, so I'm gonna want this a little bit kind of shorter really, so I'm going to cut off this kind of like thin edge, just trim it down just ever so slightly. Okay, that's perfect. Now before obviously we sew that together, we're going to need to put the little kind of black dots on, which are gonna mark out where the tapioca kind of is on the bubble tea. Now you could do this in various different ways. You can paint this on, you can sew this on, you could put little vinyl dots on it, for example, you can sew some beads on, all sorts of things. But what I'm going to be using today is actually just a screen printing ink, just because I have this left over. Puffy paint's going to work in the same way, a fabric paint's going to work in the same way, and what we're going to do is just dot this on to the kind of felt piece and just make some circles on there to kind of act as the bubble tea balls. What I'm using here is just like an old lollipop stick. Actually, it's just the end of it. You can use the end of a dotting tool, the end of a paintbrush. I'm using this just because it has got a flat circle surface, and that is going to give me the kind of most perfect circles that I can actually do myself. So I'm just going to keep on going with that. I'm going to put that one up quite high. Putting that one up quite high because that one there's down low, and these are obviously going to match up, aren't they? So I think now look good. I'm going to put another one there, and then maybe another one up, or maybe I won't. I will. So I've just dried the little black dots on there with a heat gun just to set the kind of printing ink down into place. Like I said, if you're using puffy paint, if you're using you know, fabric paints, any sort of fabric paints, I usually recommend setting them either with a heat gun or an iron or something like that, just to really set that into the fabric. You don't want it peeling off afterwards. I also find with ink, it feels really good. Like it almost just like tints the kind of, you know, felt instead of like sitting on top of it, which puffy paints and stuff do. So since I have that, that's just what I've chosen to use because I think it works the best. The next way I'm going to put the face on is by using toy safety eyes. Just got the eyes here, washers there. If you don't have these, you can of course use beads. You can paint this on, again using a puffy paint, a fabric paint. In my other videos I have done kind of the same. You can also use felt little circles for the eyes, but I like to use toy safety eyes. Again, you can use beads. I'm just going to pick some that are slightly bigger than the bubbles themselves, and also because I did paint on the bubbles, I do want the eyes to be a little bit different because obviously they are still little black dots. So in order to use toy safety eyes, they just come like this, a little kind of like flat back kind of half circle shape of plastic with a little kind of arm on. Would you call that an arm? I don't know. So you just want to cut a hole into where you want the face to be. The first one here, I'm just going to cut it randomly and we'll line up the next one. You kind of post arm through, and then you just stick the washer onto the back, which keeps the toy safety eye down in place. So we'll get a washer out, and I find this quite tricky when I wear nails, which is like all the time, but you just kind of post the washer onto the back post, then just clip that on. That went on pretty easy actually. The next one I usually find a little bit trickier because you have to line up the holes, but I usually just go by eye and then press it in. So for the mouth, I'm actually just going to stitch this into place because I find sewing a lot easier than I do kind of painting, and obviously you ain't got to wait for it to dry, and I just think it gives an overall nicer finish than paint. Like I said, you can of course paint this if you want to. The design and material choices really are down to you. I would always recommend kind of sewing instead of painting here, especially when doing little details, just because I personally prefer it. But again, it's down to you. That's the best part about crafting. You can just do it the way you want to. Okay, so now that you'll have your mouth, your whole face on there, you're going to need to switch out your thread to something that will match the kind of base color of your bubble tea plush. I'm just using this off kind of white thread here, this cream color, just to match in with the kind of champagne-y cream color of the bubble tea. Now I'm going to be stitching this so that both of the ends kind of meet, like almost on their sides. So I'm going to get the sides like this and match them up with the edges of the felt, match like that. So these stitches are going to be like a little bit visible, but I like that because it shows that it's handmade, hand stitched, and a lot of love and attention has gone into this piece. So I'm just going to hold them down with my left hand here and stitch with my right hand. If you're obviously left-handed, you want to do it the other way, but just hold down with one hand and then stitch with the other. And I'm just going to do little tiny stitches like so. This is why it's important to get this thread kind of the same color, just because of the way I am stitching this piece up. And it is going to be a little bit fiddly because obviously you're going through into the cup and then out. So it's going to get harder and harder the further up we go. And you can, of course, stitch this in any way you want to. You can use fabric glue, you can use whatever you like. Again, I just like stitching because it's a personal preference. I just prefer it. But yeah, it's down to you. So once you have all the sides and everything stitched up for your bubble tea, you're then going to want to make a circle of felt. Now to do this, I like to just place my bubble tea plush just down onto a piece of scrap felt. Draw on the inside of the plush. Usually I like to do just like a little couple of dots and then just cut it out roughly after that. And then you kind of have the perfect sized felt circle for your bottom of your plush basically. You want to start with the bottom so that we're able to stuff this up, and basically you're going to want to do a circle in the exact same way, just maybe in a white felt, so then we can stitch that on afterwards. You're just going to want to stitch the bottom one into place like I am doing so here, just in the same way that we did on the side of the plush, and then the top one can be stitched in place the same way as well, but we do need to stuff beforehand because obviously we don't want this to be an empty plush, we want it to be nice and fat and full. So before stitching the white circle onto the top to act as the lid, I'm going to stuff my shape. So I'm actually going to use wool stuffing, just because I have a ton of it kicking around. Like genuinely, I sorted out my craft room recently and I just had a load of wool stuffing. So I usually use poly stuffing, so just like polyester toy stuffing, but I have wool stuffing kicking around like I said, so I may as well just use that for the time being. There is a big difference in the way that they feel. I quite like the wool one because it makes such a kind of sturdy shape, and then like I quite like the fact that I have a wool felt and then it's stuffed with wool. Usually I'd recommend using polyfill, like toy stuffing. You can buy it from craft stores, you can use it, like upcycle it from old toys, you can use the inside of pillows for example, just like old cushions that you may have kicking around, old duvet covers. Someone even said that they used couch stuffing before to make plushies, which I thought was really funny. So yeah, just use kind of whatever you have really. So yeah, you just want to make sure that the inside of your plush is full. I also recommend using up any scraps of like felt or anything like that that you may also have kicking around, because why not? They're just going to go to waste otherwise. Anyway, so once you have your piece stuffed, you're then just going to want to thread your two kind of ends together. So I like to tie a knot, put my thread through and post it up through the circle, and then come back around just to the edge of the cup, and then just start stitching like we did on the bottom, and just going all the way around just through the top of the cup and then just through the edge of the circle there. So just stitching up as we go around, making sure that all of that stuffing is just inside the plush and it's all nice and dense and you ain't got no like empty flat bits on it. So I'm just going to sew all the way around this, and then I'm going to add a little straw and a keychain, and then it will be complete. So now that I've sewn all the way around the edge, I'm just pulling my needle up through to the center of that lid, and I'm just going to sew into place a little keychain. I actually don't want it to be there. I want it to be back for a little bit. Just gonna move that stitch, and I'm going to sew the keychain here just first before I put the straw on, because I want to make sure that it's all lined up correctly. I'm just going to use a silver keychain on this one because I have quite a few silver ones left over, because I had to buy a gold and a silver pack of keychains recently that I only used the gold ones from it. So silver ones, they're just going to be my friend for a while. I'm just going to run quite a few stitches in like the first little chain loop down there, and that should keep this nicely in place. And then what I'm going to do is run my stitch back through all of those little loops, and that's just going to loop them all together and keep them nice and thick so it won't fall through the chain. Like so, goes through, and then I'm going to tie a knot. So it's going to tie off the thread, and it's going to keep all of those together in a nice chunky stitch. You can stop here, of course. It would probably be easier to stop here, but I'm not going to. So what I like to do is I like to take a little bit of felt, just cut this into a short rectangle like so, and I just like to take some glue basically and roll this up to make like a little felt tube. So this is just super glue that I'm using, and I'm just gonna fold over the first bit like so. Sometimes I use hot glue, but in the past that has kind of left like little marks on it, which I haven't been too keen on. I'm just going to really, really tightly roll this felt. So just get a little felt roll going on, probably to about that thick. And then I'm just going to apply another little bit of super glue on there. You can use fabric glue, whatever glue you want to. Probably just need something that is fast bonded, which is why I'm using super glue, because obviously you're going to want this to set in this rolled one. A fast bonding glue will be best in this instant. So yeah, you can use fabric glue, but it won't make too much of a difference because we want this to be quite dense and quite secure. So now that that's kind of set, I'm just going to cut the excess off and then just cut this down. Yeah, like so. Oh, that's perfect. A cute little derpy little straw. So I'm going to just super glue that into place because that will be going absolutely nowhere. I'm just going to apply this liberally to the bottom, let it soak in for a second. The felt will kind of absorb it, and then I'm just going to stick that down there and just hold that into place. That should secure really, really well. And I've accidentally super glued felt together before and never been able to pull it apart, especially acrylic felt, but this is wool felt. It should work in the exact same way, and I'll be able to tell you in about 5 to 10 minutes once this is fully set. I'm just going to leave that to the side and I'll come back and show you the strength of that once it has dried. Okay, so this is how the little plush has turned out. I absolutely love it. Look how cute this is. I love this so much. I might actually make it in other colours, put it on a shop update or something. Maybe my next shop update will have little tiny mini plushes like this. I don't know, I love it. The straw itself, like I said, I left it set for around about 15-20 minutes to be honest. And this is how secure it is. Like, it's not going anywhere. It's pulling the lid. It's fully on there. I'm really, really happy with how it's turned out. I think it's so adorable. Like I said, I have filmed bubble tea plushie tutorials before. I filmed a big one and then a keychain one as well. I still have that keychain somewhere, but this one here is miles better and I absolutely adore it. I think it's just perfect. But yeah, like I said, I will leave those videos down below. Eventually I might prioritize those because I'm really, really embarrassed by them, but it might be fun to go back and look and compare them at the moment with today's. So anyway, I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you very soon for another one.